G'day folks, Alex McKellar here. Just putting together a track guide for the Season 10 opener of Aussie Car and of course Season 4 of 2021 for the official season, both going to Lime Rock Park, the classic layout. For those of you doing Aussie Car, this stint, or the stints that I did for this, were a 7.9 litre like we do on a Thursday night, plus a top up for the race distance that we do on for the feature event on a Thursday night. Setup wise, my spring perch offset is set to 3, and brake bias is around 55. Well, it is 55, which seems to be the sweet spot at the moment. ARB is set to 8, and tyre pressures, of course, are as low as they go. The weather was iRacing default, but track temp was around 45 or 44 degrees, I think. 45 it says here. As I said, did the feature race length stint. Fastest lap was lap 16. So we might go take a look at that. We'll just go back to where it all begins. We'll turn the inputs on and grab the cockpit view. So we'll watch the lap first, and then we'll talk about what it looks like. Alright, so that was the lap. As you see, it was a 57.4, which is towards the end of that first stint. You can see in the second stint, when the tyres are warm, which would be sort of the second half of the race, assuming we don't change tyres, which of course we do, settling in around the mid to high 57 mark. Track temp of 44, 45 degrees means that depending on the night and what track conditions, you could probably duck into the 56s, particularly with draft. So track conditions depending, it's a reasonable time. So what we might do now is break down the lap. I actually just get to the right spot and back it up. So because, of course, the lap really starts way back here, because this corner here, the final corner on the track at turn 7, the downhill, really it's the most important corner on the track because it's got the longest straight afterwards and sets you up for the best passing opportunity into turn 1. So kicking off here, you're obviously trying to, and you can see this lap I actually did it full throttle, a little bit of steering input here and there to keep solid control, and I track all the way out. Didn't actually do as well as that on the end of this lap, but you'll see that when we come to it. So approaching turn 1, we're all the way over to the left, as you can see, and my braking reference is about the 2 board, give or take. Very, very important corner, obviously. It's it's at the end of the longest straight, and B, it's the best passing opportunity on the track. So really important to think about when you are doing practice, to practice both the inside and the outside lines. It's not unusual to see three cars abreast coming into this corner, and strategically, the outside line's not so bad. Obviously, the best line to defend is on the inside, but you've got to make sure that you can carry enough speed through to defend all the way realistically through to turn 4, because you can on the outside. If you carry enough speed, brake a little bit later, take the wider line, and really control the positioning of your opponent, you can get the overtake done at turn 3, the sole left-hander on the course. But so really think about practicing different lines through here. But for now, we'll just go. We're just hot lapping, so we'll take the right kind of lines as much as we can. So you can see at about that 2 board, I'm braking. I'm only braking around 50-55%, and turning the car in. You can see I'm even counter steering a little bit there if you look at the wheel. And I maintain a little bit of brake and throttle pressure to keep the car stable. Only going down to 3rd gear. I'm not too worried about hitting the apex curving here. Could be a little bit over to the right, further over to the right, but I'm trying to keep the car nice and stable through here. Move out a little bit between the 2 apexes of the big bend at 1 and 2. A squirt of full throttle before quite a sharp lift, if not an entire lift, just to help the car rotate and hit the second apex there of the big bend at turn 2. Full throttle very early on, or as early as we dare, to push out to the far left and track out. Now, one of the reasons this track's a really good training facility, I think anyway, is this next series of corners. You've got the sole left-hander. Here at turn 3, it's called the left-hander, and the series of corners is called the S's. You've got the left-hander at turn 3 into the right-hander, named the right-hander at turn 4. Now, excuse me, typically what you're going to do at a corner like this left-hander is you're going to track all the way out to the right, or to set it up for your turn-in. You're going to apex carrying as much speed as you can, and then track out on the exit of the corner to the far right-hand side, the outside of the circuit, the outside of the corner there on exit. However, what you've got coming up is a short straight before the right-hander that leads onto a long straight. So what you're really trying to do here is maximize your exit speed of the next corner by sacrificing or compromising the exit of the turn 3 here. So what you'll see that I'll do here is I'll come in a bit later than usual, and I'm really staying over to the left-hand side of the track rather than pushing out to the right. It's okay to push out a little bit further than this, not so much half track, maybe a third of the track. But what I'm really trying to do is get over to the left so that I can set up the right-hander after that really short straight. Because the idea being is the better runner I have out of turn 4, the faster I'm going at the end of the next longer straight. Now what you'll see here is from the exit of turn 2, we shoot over to the right, and it's quite an early turn in here, even though I'm drifting the car. Now I sit in 3rd here. It's okay to sit in 2nd. So you would have seen I'll use a little bit of brake through here, just a smidge. The alternative you can use is, because I use just a smidge to rotate the car, the alternative you can use is drop down to 2nd and use the engine to brake a bit. And still think about using the brake if you need to just position your car a bit better. But the idea here for me is you can see here, I'm at full throttle before the apex of turn 3. And the idea is I want to position my car for 2 things, so that I'm full throttle as early as I can, and I don't want to lift before turn 5, which is at the end of the next long straight. I want to position the car such that I can do that and be on the left-hand side of the corner on exit rather than tracking out. So you see all the way back here on full throttle, as we roll through, kissing the curb on the inside, we don't lift. We position the car at the left-hand side of the track and immediately, still on full throttle, hit the right-hand apex. Now, I'm not too worried about hitting the apex curb here, because it does spit you out sometimes too far to the right, depending on how you attack it. But you can see by where I finish here, there's still half a car width worth of track. So in theory, although I got on the gas quite early, way back here, just before the apex of turn 3, I could have got it on earlier, tracked out a little bit further to the right, and carried more speed through here. So you can see in third gear, that's cool. In second gear, you'd be shifting just before the apex of this corner here. And earlier on in a stint, I probably will use second gear, particularly in traffic. Just be aware of that. And you can actually use it to rotate the car a bit through here if you are a lift and shift. I'm a clutch guy, so not so much applicable. You can, as I said, track out a bit further on here, so I could have carried a bit more speed. Probably cost me a little bit of time, maybe, I don't know, half a tenth. Now, coming up to what is the trickiest section on this course, really. It's not the most technical. I think the previous section is probably the most technical, but this is the trickiest. So we're setting up to the uphill, turn 5. Two things I'm looking for here, obviously the apex, but I'm also looking to first spot my turn-in reference, which is the curbing on the left-hand outside of the circuit, and then immediately switch my vision to the inside apex curbing. So I'm looking to move all the way over to the left. Here you can see, you can even grab a bit of the grass on entry, and then as we hit that curbing, we're looking to lift a fraction just to rotate the car. No need for brake here. Even at the start of your stint. And I carry a bit of trailing throttle here just to keep stability in the car. Now, as I said, I run SPO 3 here. You could probably drop the SPO a little, maybe down to even to 0 here. The car does bottom out over this curb though. You might want to drop it just to maybe help with that, but I don't tend to ride this curb as much as I used to since the track revision, because you do bottom out here and it can destabilize the car a little bit, also will cost you a fraction of time. So I'm looking to keep throttle, a maintenance throttle here to keep the car stable, and then as soon as the car's back on the track and settled, back to full throttle for the uphill section here. Now, I didn't time that as well as I would like. You could probably definitely be a little bit over to the left here after carrying more speed. In fact, you know, on some laps you might even find yourself on the other side of that white line. However, that's a pretty risky game that you're playing out there, because as you come up the hill, there is track there, but you see there on your left, it does cut away quite quickly before you hit the grass and potentially the 1X. And the real thing that you're trying to avoid, or if I try and get this right, the real thing you're trying to avoid here is having right-hand input as you crest the hill. So the idea here is, you'll see as I come to crest the hill and the suspension unloads as the weight lifts, as you naturally do, you'll see how my wheel is dead straight, and if anything, as the suspension comes weight bearing again as the car sort of settles, I'm actually counter steering, because as the weight settles into the suspension, it'll grip up, and if you've got any right hand down in the car, it will snap oversteer and spit you off to the right hand side of the track. So you see straight wheel, then as it unloads a little bit to the left, and then as the car lands again, I'm actually counter steering to the outside of the circuit just to avoid that snap oversteer, because the rear of the car will flick to the left. So you'll see here the rear, you can see the rear of the car wanting to let go, and if you've got any right hand down in your steering wheel, any turn to the right, you will get spat off to the right. So nice soft hands through here, and nice soft hands, and just remember, always keep the wheel as straight as possible, if anything a little to the left. So next corner is the turn 6 west bend, the penultimate corner on this track. It's an interesting one. It's another good one for skills and practice. So my graphics are down quite low because I run VR. So there's no real turn-in reference here. Don't rely on shadows because they change. So what I'm really using is my head up the track, watching the apex as a turn-in reference. So I'm using that as my turn-in reference. I've spotted it and I figure I've got the angle right, and you'll get the feel for that after a number of laps. So you don't have to brake at this corner, excuse me, but it's a lot trickier if you don't. So I use a dab on the brakes, as you can see, just to rotate the car and point it at the apex. I carry a bit of trailing throttle to stabilise the car over the curb. I did ride the curb quite hard on this lap, but you'll see I'm keeping throttle in there to stabilise it. I aim to try and get back on full throttle about that service road on the right, which seems to be the right kind of balance between riding the curb and pushing out afterwards, because there's a couple of things to remember when you're riding curbs like this. One thing, soft hands, then open the wheel just a little bit, because the car will turn a bit more, gain a bit of extra rotation when it hits the curbs. And then also, like I said, I use a bit of trailing throttle to about 50% in this case to maintain stability, and then I'm back on full throttle as the car settles off the curb around that service road on the right. And we track out all the way to the left, and you can see that's a pretty good one. You want to be careful on exit of this track, both if you don't use the brake, which you can do. Like I said, my preference is to little jab on the brake there, or if you collect the curb at the wrong angle, you will spit out to the left and grab the grass. Really challenging little section. You want to get it as far over to the left as you can to maintaining the most speed. But also you'd want to miss the 1X, but also really treacherous if you do get on the grass. The wall's really close, and chances are if you hit it, you're going to spit out across the track again and collect cars that are coming up behind you. But that's about as good as I reckon I could do on that one. Now, coming down to the final corner at the downhill. So we went through the uphill at turn 5. We're in the downhill section at turn 7. My turn-in reference here is about when you bottom out at the base of the hill. Again, looking up early to spot your apex once you've spotted that downhill bottom out. And then this time I did actually lift, whereas the previous lap I didn't. And you can see the difference. Last lap, a little feathering of a lift in the middle. I probably turned in a bit late, which is why I'm a little bit off the apex curving. It's only really half a tyre width. You don't need to kiss that curb at all, in my view. But yeah, I'm probably a fraction off, and as a result, I turned in a bit late. Had to lift a fraction, and you can see there's a good tyre width on the outside of the track that I could use if I was carrying a bit more speed. So there's a bit of an art there between timing your turn in, and if you stay flat on a late turn in, you will scrub a bit of speed. It's better to just have that fraction of a lift. But if you time it right, you can stay flat, as you saw on the entry to this lap. And there you have it. That's the lap. As I said, that was a 1:57.4. I think times will vary based on weather, of course. This opening round of Aussie Car, and for the official season, of course. Looking forward to it. And hopefully having another crack at the title. But thanks for watching, folks. Hopefully that did help. Again, I should say I'm no expert. This is what I do, and these are my plans when I attack this circuit. Hopefully that might help some of you as well. But until next time, folks, thanks for watching, and ciao for now.